Why, in a world where science and technology seem to explain almost everything, do people still believe in Bigfoot? Is it just a relic of old myths, or is there something deeper at play? Today, we're diving straight into this question: what makes Bigfoot, this elusive, mysterious creature, so compelling that people continue to believe in its existence?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
At first glance, the answer might seem simple. Humans are fascinated by the unknown. But let's be honest, that's just scratching the surface. If Bigfoot was just another myth, wouldn't we have left it behind by now, along with other creatures like the Kraken or mermaids? There's something unique about Bigfoot that keeps people hooked, despite a lack of solid evidence. And to understand why, we need to look beyond the surface. One of the core reasons people believe in Bigfoot is psychological. We are wired to seek out patterns and meaning in the world. Evolution has trained our brains to be cautious and alert to possible dangers in the environment. When ancient humans saw a shadow in the forest, they had to ask, is that a predator? Or just the wind? Our ancestors who erred on the side of caution, assuming it was a threat or more likely to survive. This instinct has carried over into modern times. So when someone sees a large, shadowy figure in the woods, the brain immediately fills in the gaps, telling them that it could be something more than just a tree or a rock. But why Bigfoot specifically? It's because Bigfoot embodies something primal, the idea of a giant, elusive creature that exists beyond the reach of civilization. He represents a wildness that we've lost touch with in our modern, structured lives. When you think about it, believing in Bigfoot is a way for people to connect with something larger than themselves, something untamed and beyond human control. In a world where everything seems to be known and mapped out, the possibility that Bigfoot could exist provides an escape from the confines of modern life. Now, let's talk about stories. Humans love stories. From the earliest cave paintings to the epic tales of ancient civilizations, storytelling has been a way to make sense of the world. Bigfoot is a perfect story, a creature that lurks in the deepest parts of the forest, just out of reach. People aren't just drawn to the idea of Bigfoot, they're drawn to the narrative around him. The stories about encounters, the mysterious sightings, the grainy footage, it all adds to the legend. And in some ways, the less evidence we have, the more compelling the story becomes. But here's the interesting part: many of these stories have real emotional weight. People who claim to have seen Bigfoot often describe the experience as life-changing. It's not just about seeing a strange creature, it's about confronting something they can't fully understand. There's a sense of awe, fear, and wonder that comes with believing you've encountered Bigfoot. And this emotional impact makes the belief even more powerful. So here's a question: is it possible that the belief in Bigfoot is less about the creature itself and more about what it represents? Could it be that, deep down, people want to believe in something unknown because it reminds them that there's more to the world than what we can see and explain? As we dig deeper, we also need to explore the role that culture plays in keeping the Bigfoot legend alive. Over the years, Bigfoot has become a cultural icon. He appears in movies, TV shows, and books. There are entire communities dedicated to finding him. This cultural reinforcement makes it easier for people to believe because they're constantly exposed to the idea that Bigfoot could be real. And when you hear something over and over again, it becomes familiar. Familiarity breeds credibility, even if the evidence is shaky. But culture isn't the only factor. Believing in Bigfoot can also provide a sense of belonging. Think about it: joining a community of people who share a belief in Bigfoot gives individuals a sense of connection and purpose. It's not just about proving that Bigfoot is real. It's about being part of something larger. In a way, the search for Bigfoot becomes a shared quest, a modern-day adventure that brings people together. Now, I want to pause for a moment and ask you something. If you believe in Bigfoot, what is it that really draws you in? Is it the thrill of the unknown? The hope of discovering something incredible? Or is it the sense of community that comes with being part of this search? And even if you don't believe, there's something fascinating about the persistence of this belief, isn't there? We live in an age where almost every inch of the planet has been explored, where satellite images and drones can scan vast stretches of wilderness. Yet people still claim to see Bigfoot, and they still believe that he's out there, hiding in the shadows. This, in itself, tells us something profound about human nature. We aren't satisfied with the answers we have. We don't want to believe that we've discovered everything. The belief in Bigfoot, in many ways, reflects our desire for mystery, for adventure, for the unknown. It's a reminder that no matter how much we think we know, there's always more to discover. And in that sense, Bigfoot isn't just a creature, he's a symbol of the human spirit's endless curiosity. But let's not overlook another key factor: fear. Fear is a powerful motivator, and Bigfoot taps into our deepest fears of the unknown. The idea of a large, hairy creature stalking through the woods at night is unsettling. It plays into our primal instincts, reminding us that the world can still be a dangerous and unpredictable place. But here's the twist: people are drawn to that fear. It's the same reason we love horror movies or ghost stories. The fear of Bigfoot is thrilling because it's a fear we can control from a distance. So when people believe in Bigfoot, they're engaging with both curiosity and fear. It's a delicate balance, a way to flirt with the unknown without fully committing to it. And that's part of why this belief has endured for so long. It allows us to explore the edges of our understanding while still feeling safe. But I have to ask, what happens when we let go of the need for certainty? What happens when we embrace the idea that not everything needs to be explained, that some mysteries might remain unsolved? So, where were we? Ah, yes, the mystery of Bigfoot and how it taps into something deep within us. As we venture further into this exploration, it's important to recognize that the belief in Bigfoot doesn't just satisfy a curiosity about the unknown, it also fulfills a profound psychological and emotional need for connection. And it's not the kind of connection you might immediately think of. Let's dive deeper into this idea. At first glance, Bigfoot is a creature that represents isolation. He's often described as a solitary being, living far away from human civilization, hidden in the most remote parts of the wilderness. But despite this, the belief in Bigfoot creates a strange kind of connection between humans and the wild, between those who search for him, and even between believers and skeptics. Why? For starters, let's think about our relationship with nature. We as a species have become increasingly disconnected from the natural world. Most of us live in cities, surrounded by concrete, technology, and modern conveniences. The forests, mountains, and wild landscapes that were once home to our ancestors have become places we visit rather than live in. And yet, deep down, there's still a part of us that longs for that connection to nature. Bigfoot, in many ways, symbolizes that connection. When people believe in Bigfoot, they're not just believing in the creature itself, they're believing in the idea that there are still wild, untamed places on Earth. They're believing that not everything has been conquered, developed, or understood. It's a way of holding on to the idea that there's still something pure and untouched out there, beyond the reach of human hands. And in a world that feels increasingly controlled and artificial, that belief is powerful. But there's more to it than just our relationship with nature. The belief in Bigfoot also connects people to one another. I mentioned earlier that there are entire communities of people dedicated to finding Bigfoot. These communities aren't just about the search, they're about shared experience, camaraderie, and a sense of belonging. Whether they're organizing expeditions, sharing stories, or debating evidence, these believers are part of something larger than themselves. They find purpose in the search, and in doing so, they find connection. This brings us to an important question. Could it be that believing in Bigfoot is really about a desire for connection rather than the creature itself? Is the search for Bigfoot just a stand-in for something else, a deeper need to feel connected to nature, to other people, and to a larger, more mysterious world? When we think about the people who dedicate their lives to finding Bigfoot, what we often see is a deep commitment to the search, not just for evidence, but for meaning. They spend hours, days, and even years trekking through forests, setting up cameras, analyzing footprints, and studying grainy videos. And while many of them have yet to find definitive proof, the search itself becomes the reward. It gives them purpose, it gives them a reason to explore, and it gives them a connection to something bigger than themselves. Now, I want you to think about this. What if we all had something in our lives that gave us that same sense of purpose and connection? What if, like those who search for Bigfoot, we each had our own quest, something that drove us, motivated us, and connected us to a larger world? For many, the belief in Bigfoot serves as that quest. It's not about whether or not they actually find him, it's about the journey, the search, and the community that forms around it. And that's why this belief has such staying power. It taps into a fundamental human need for adventure, for discovery, and for connection. But there's another layer to this belief that we can't ignore: the role of skepticism. In any belief system, there will always be those who challenge it. Skeptics are an essential part of the Bigfoot narrative. They ask questions, they demand evidence, and they push back against the idea that such a creature could exist. But interestingly, the presence of skeptics doesn't weaken the belief in Bigfoot, it often strengthens it. Why is that? Because in many cases, the skeptics and the believers are engaged in the same search, just from different angles. Skeptics want proof, they want answers, and so do believers. The only difference is that skeptics are more likely to dismiss evidence that doesn't meet their standards, while believers are more willing to accept possibilities beyond what science can currently explain. But at the core, both sides are driven by the same desire to understand the world around them. This dynamic creates an interesting tension, one that keeps the belief in Bigfoot alive and evolving. Every time new evidence is presented, whether it's a footprint, a video, or a personal testimony, both sides engage with it. Believers see it as proof, while skeptics dissect it, looking for flaws. But in doing so, they both keep the conversation going, ensuring that the mystery of Bigfoot remains in the public consciousness. And let's not forget the role of media in all of this. Television shows, documentaries, podcasts, and YouTube channels have all contributed to keeping Bigfoot relevant. These platforms offer a stage for both believers and skeptics to present their case, and in doing so, they introduce new generations to the mystery. The more we hear about Bigfoot, the more likely we are to entertain the possibility, even if only for a moment. And that moment is all it takes for curiosity to take root. But here's something even more fascinating: the belief in Bigfoot is not just confined to one part of the world. While most sightings are reported in North America, stories of large, ape-like creatures exist in cultures all over the globe. In the Himalayas, there's the Yeti. In Australia, the Yowie. In Southeast Asia, the orang pendek. These stories share common themes: an elusive, mysterious creature that lives in the wilderness, far from human civilization. This cross-cultural consistency suggests that the belief in Bigfoot taps into something universal, something that transcends geography and culture. So here's a question to ponder: why do so many cultures, separated by vast distances and different histories, have similar stories of large, mysterious creatures? Is it just a coincidence, or could it be that these creatures represent something deeply embedded in the human psyche, something about our need to believe in the unknown, to imagine that the world is larger and more mysterious than it seems? As we continue to explore this belief, we can't ignore the fact that Bigfoot has become more than just a creature. He's a cultural symbol, a psychological archetype, and a shared story that connects people across time and space. And in that way, believing in Bigfoot is less about whether or not he's real, and more about what he represents. But before we conclude, there's one final aspect we need to consider: the personal. For many people, the belief in Bigfoot is deeply personal. It's tied to their identity, their experiences, and their worldview. When someone claims to have seen Bigfoot, it's often more than just a story. It's a moment that defines their relationship with the world. And in that moment, the lines between reality and belief blur. They see something that challenges their understanding of what's possible, and in that challenge they find meaning.